I still remember the way the store lights flickered above me, the way the tiny silver ring sparkled like it was something worth more than $10. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't special to anyone else. But to me, it was the first thing I had ever bought for myself with my own money, earned from my first real bonus at work. I held it in my palm like it was fragile, like if I moved too fast, the world would take it away. I slid it onto my finger right there in the aisle, smiling at the way it finally looked like something belonged to me. Something I didn't owe my mother. Something my sister didn't snatch. Something that wasn't secondhand, cracked, or handed down as a reminder of what I didn't deserve. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. I walked home with that ring like I was holding a secret sunrise in my hand. The moment I walked through the front door, Mom didn't greet me. She never did. She looked me over like I tracked dirt into her perfect house simply by existing. "What's that on your hand?" she snapped before I even shut the door. I tried to hide it instinctively. "Just something I bought." She scoffed loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "With whose money? Not mine, that's for damn sure." "My own," I whispered. That word, own, it triggered something in her. She marched over so fast I barely had time to flinch. She grabbed my wrist like she was trying to peel my skin off my bones. "You think you earned something?" she hissed. Her face was so close I could smell her coffee breath and her cruelty mixing in the air. "Show me." I tried to pull back, but she yanked my arm up like I was a child caught stealing. My sister Tiffany came down the stairs with her phone recording before I even realized she was there. She laughed. "Mom, look at her. She thinks she's classy now." I swallowed hard, fighting the heat behind my eyes. "It's just a ring," I said quietly. "Just a ring?" Mom repeated mockingly. "You don't get to have pretty things. You don't even deserve basic things." She forced my fingers forward, squeezing at the joints. I gasped. "Mom, stop!" She twisted harder. The ring dug into my skin. "Pretty things rot on ugly hands," she growled. "You hear me?" Tiffany snorted. "Break her fingers, Mom. Maybe she'll finally learn not to pretend she's one of us." I felt the world spin. I tried to hold the ring with my other hand, but she slapped it away. Then Mom bent my fingers back so sharply I heard a crack, not broken, but close enough to make my vision blur with pain. She didn't stop until the ring slid off and clattered to the floor. I reached for it instinctively. She stomped on my hand. I choked on a scream. "Don't touch it," she barked. "You drop it like the useless thing you are." Tiffany filmed me on the ground, my fingers swelling, the ring under Mom's shoe. "Post it," Mom said coldly. "Show people what happens when trash forgets its place." Tiffany grinned. Caption, "When your sister thinks she's worthy of jewelry." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. Mom leaned down, her voice venomous. "Maybe next time you'll spend that money on your sister like you're supposed to." My chest tightened. It was my first bonus. "So?" She shrugged. "Everything you earn belongs to this family, not to you." She kicked the ring across the floor and walked off like she didn't just nearly break my fingers. Tiffany followed, still laughing, still recording, still making sure I had nothing left of that small moment of joy. I curled my injured hand against my chest and stared at the ring far across the room, out of reach, reflecting nothing but the overhead lights and the truth I kept refusing to accept. They didn't forget to love me. They simply never intended to. As I crawled across the floor to pick up the ring, Dad walked in from the kitchen, took one look at me, and smirked. "If you're jealous of your sister's beauty," he said, "just say that, but breaking your own fingers over cheap jewelry is dramatic, even for you." He stepped over me like I wasn't even human. I sat there, hand throbbing, heart tearing, ring trembling in my palm. That was the moment a cold silence settled inside me. Something that wasn't anger, something deeper, calmer, the kind of silence that grows teeth. And that was the night I decided the next time they tried to hurt me, the next time they thought I would bend, I would make sure they were the ones who broke. I woke up the next morning with my fingers still throbbing, swollen and purple, every small movement sending a sharp burn through my hand. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, trying to tie my hair with one functional hand, and for the first time in years, I looked at myself like a stranger, someone I didn't recognize, someone who had spent too long trying to make monsters love her. Downstairs, I heard plates clattering. Mom was humming. Hannah, my sister, was laughing with that smug, nasal laugh she used whenever she got something new. And Dad? His heavy footsteps moved like a rhythm he owned the whole house with. I walked into the kitchen silently. Mom didn't even turn. She just said, "If you're here to cry about your little circus ring, don't." I threw it in the trash pile outside. Maybe someone desperate will dig it out. Hannah sipped her orange juice and said without looking at me, "Honestly, Mom, she should be grateful. That ring looked like something from a cereal box." Dad slammed his mug on the table. "You know what your problem is, June," he barked. "You keep acting like you're one of us. But you're here because we let you live here. You're the draft that never leaves." I swallowed, my jaw tightening. "Dad, you could have just said you didn't like it. You didn't have to break your fingers?" Mom finished for him, still smiling. "Sweetheart, you bruise so easily. Be useful, at least. Clean the kitchen. Your sister has somewhere to go." Hannah stood up and tossed her hair like she was in a shampoo commercial. "I have a party tonight, a real party, not your tiny salary loser celebration." My fingers trembled as I grabbed a towel from the counter. Mom noticed. "Oh, stop shaking. Pain builds character, or ruins the weak. We'll see which you are." Something inside me snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like a rope that had been worn down for years, finally giving out. But I didn't say a word, not when they left dirty dishes on purpose, not when Dad tossed the remote at my feet and said, "Fetch," not when Hannah called me the family stain. I played along. I let them think I was cracking. Let them think hurting me was still easy. Let them think I was still the girl who'd bend before she'd fight. But every night after work, I did something they didn't know about. I joined a self-defense class. Not the soft kind, not aerobics, not women's gentle empowerment glow yoga. Real stuff, gritty stuff. The type that teaches you how to rewire instincts, how to breathe through fear, how to break free even when the attacker is stronger, taller, or crueler. At first, everyone stared at my bandaged fingers. "Rough night?" my instructor asked. "Rough life," I said. And he didn't ask again. Weeks passed. My grip returned. My reflexes sharpened. My voice didn't tremble anymore. My posture straightened without me noticing. My eyes, once timid, held something else, something sharper. But at home, I kept the same quiet face. When Mom yelled, I lowered my head. When Dad mocked me, I backed away. When Hannah shoved past me, I said nothing. They believed they were winning. They believed I was shrinking. They believed the ugly-handed girl with the cheap ring was still beneath them. But the day everything turned was the day Mom found out I got a promotion at work. I came home early, exhausted but proud, a certificate in my bag, a small bonus envelope tucked between papers. Mom spotted it before I even sat down. "What's this?" she said, ripping the envelope from my hands. "A bonus," I said quietly. "My company?" "Your company?" she mocked. "As if you're anything there. They probably gave you this out of pity." Dad walked in from the living room, already annoyed. "What is she crying about now?" Mom waved the money like trash. "She thinks she accomplished something." Hannah laughed from the staircase. "Oh, please, June. A bonus? What, $20? Buy yourself another plastic ring?" I finally said, "It's my money." Mom stopped. Dad stopped. Hannah turned. Mom's face twisted into something razor-sharp. "Excuse me?" "I earned it," I repeated. "That's all I meant." Dad stepped closer, puffing out his chest like he owned oxygen. "You don't earn anything under this roof unless we say so," Mom sneered. "Hand it over." "No." The room froze. It was the softest word I'd ever said, but it landed like a grenade. Mom grabbed the front of my shirt. "You're getting brave again?" Dad muttered. "That's what happens when you don't punish weakness." Mom raised her hand. And that was the moment my body moved before my fear did. Not in violence, not in attack, just pure reflex. I stepped back, breaking her grip. I didn't bow. I didn't apologize. I didn't shake. For the first time, I stood equal height to her. Mom's eyebrows lifted. "Oh? So you learned something?" Dad pointed a finger at me. "Fix your attitude, or I'll fix it for you, the way I fixed it when you were 10. A memory flashed, his belt, my tears, Mom laughing, but for the first time in my whole life, I stared directly at him. "Try," I whispered. His face went red. Mom stepped closer. Hannah grinned, sensing a show. Dad lunged first. A shove, hard, straight toward my shoulder. But the new me didn't fall. I rooted myself, and his hand met a wall that didn't exist before. He stumbled, shocked. Mom snarled, "What did you do, I stopped bending," I said. Hannah rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, June. You're not scary." I wasn't trying to be. I was simply done being prey. Mom shoved me again, this time harder. But I didn't move. And when she raised her hand to strike, I blocked it. A clean, precise block I didn't know I could do until I did it. Mom's mouth fell open. Dad froze. Hannah finally looked afraid. "What the hell?" Dad muttered. I breathed out, slow and steady. Then I walked away. Not ran, not flinched, walked. And something in all three of them shifted. They weren't done with me yet. But they finally realized. I was not the same girl they broke. Not anymore. And what was coming next, they would never see coming. I didn't sleep the night after Mom bent my fingers back and stole the ring. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard her voice. Pretty things rot on ugly hands. It played like a scratched tape inside my skull. My fingers were still swollen, taped together with cheap pharmacy wrap, throbbing with every heartbeat. But rage kept me awake more than pain. For my entire life, they counted on one thing. Me staying quiet. Me staying in that house. Me staying useful. Me staying small. Me staying breakable. But something snapped that night. Not my fingers. Me. I went to work early the next morning, hand aching, and my manager, Laura, stared at me the moment she saw the swelling. "Who did that to you?" she whispered. I told her everything. I don't know why. Maybe because she was the first adult who looked at me like I wasn't dirt. She didn't speak for a long moment. Then she said, "You're not going back to that house tonight." I thought she meant calling the cops, or giving some dramatic speech. But she didn't. She did something much quieter. Something real. She took me to HR. They transferred my bonus to a separate account. They helped me freeze any secondary access my parents secretly had. They arranged emergency housing for 30 days. They connected me to a company counselor and a legal advisor who specialized in domestic abuse cases. They didn't save me. They handed me tools so I could save myself. That afternoon, while my father texted demanding I stop sulking and come clean the kitchen, I unlocked a storage locker and stepped inside. The company had given me the code. Inside were bags, toiletries, a place to breathe, and silence. God, the silence felt unreal. I sat on the small metal bench and stared at my swollen fingers, and a thought came to me. They took everything from me, my birthdays, my childhood, my confidence, my ring, but they never thought I'd take them away from themselves. The revenge wasn't poetic, it wasn't gentle, it wasn't symbolic, it was practical, dangerous, chaotic, and something they never expected. The first step of my payback. I filed a legal statement with the company advisor documenting the assault, with photos, time-stamped, witnessed. My bruises, my taped fingers, my mother's text ordering me back home to apologize for being dramatic. The advisor said, "If they ever come near your workplace, your home, or you, this becomes criminal." I nodded, because I already knew step 2. The second step. I quietly changed every password, every bank login, every recovery email, every PIN they used to access anything of mine. They had always treated my money as theirs. Not anymore. Dad tried to withdraw from my account the next day and failed. He called me 10 times, screaming into the voicemail. I didn't answer. The third step, I went back to the house, not to live, not to talk, but to collect what was mine before they could throw it out. When I walked inside, they were sitting at the table eating lunch like nothing happened. Mom's eyes narrowed. "Oh, look who remembered where she lives." Dad stabbed a fork toward me. "You done throwing tantrums?" I didn't speak. I walked past them down the hallway and entered my room. Mom followed me, already yelling, "No, no, you don't pack anything without asking me. Everything in this house belongs to this family, not—" She stopped when she saw what I was holding. The ring. My bent, cheap ring sitting on the dresser. She must have thrown it aside, thinking it was worthless. Good. I picked it up and slipped it gently onto my middle finger, the same finger she tried to break. Her face twisted. "You little—" I stood tall, taller than I ever had, and said, "I filed a statement, with evidence, with timestamps, with your messages. Come near me again. You lose a lot more than a ring." Dad laughed until he realized I wasn't bluffing. Mom's face drained. "Who do you think they'll believe?" she spat weakly. "Not the people who can't even remember their own daughter's birthday." I zipped my bag, walked out of the house with my shoulders straight, and didn't look back. They yelled, they threatened, they demanded, they tried guilt, they tried pity, they even tried asking about future money. I ignored every one of them. The final step of revenge. I changed my name. Legally, officially, completely. I erased the name they screamed, the name they mocked, the name they used as a target. I kept the initials, because the new version of me wasn't born from nothing. She was forged from everything they did. When the legal documents arrived, I took a photo of the certificate, the new name bold and beautiful, and sent it to my mother. No words, just the image. Mom replied instantly, "What does this mean?" I typed 2 sentences. "This means you don't own me anymore. It also means you'll never find me again." Then I blocked them all. And the ring? I still wear it. Not because it's pretty, not because it's expensive, because it survived what they tried to break. Just like me. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.